Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, EQOA Nostalgia here, and today I'm going to be playing EverQuest Online Adventures in an emulator. Now, before I begin, I just want everybody to know that the game is very, very laggy on my system. It's because my PC is not that great, and when I run an emulator and fraps together, it just seems to really kill the processing speed. So it doesn't look too good. But nevertheless, I wanted to do it because I am very, very passionate about EverQuest Online Adventures, as I'm sure you're all aware. So when I run through here, you're going to notice some serious lag. I'm even using speed hacks, and it still lags. So yeah, my machine is definitely a toaster, and hopefully I'll be upgrading soon. But it is really cool to be able to run around in here, and hopefully everybody will be able to do that pretty soon. I know the guys are making some pretty good progress. We haven't really come out with a lot to say lately, but people are working very, very hard to get the coding right and everything, and there has been some progress. As you can see, there are a few of the NPCs that got captured here in the save state. There's not many of them, so right now these are the assets, pretty much all of the assets I think that we have to work with. They're just kind of frozen in time. But when the game does go live, if everything works out, we'll be able to use these assets. You might be able to play as one of these characters. But hopefully we'll find some more save states with more NPCs and stuff going on. Now you're going to notice little anomalies like the way that looks over there. When you get up close, it clears up. Like I said, it's most likely my computer. And you have this guy, Final Quest, over here, who is, I believe, is an alchemist. He's got his faithful badger. But it's really weird running around without anything going on. Those are the only NPCs in the entire game. They were captured right along that area over there. So when I go outside, you'll notice that the lag settles down quite a bit. It's not as bad. You're going to notice the music is sped up and everything because, like I said, I am using a speed hack. Without it, my character just crawls really, really slow. So thankfully I was able to do that to get it to at least a playable state where I could run around and explore the world. And there are so many things that I never seen. And you would assume that, well, most of us play this game for years, so we've seen pretty much everything. But the world was so dangerous, even for a level 60, that a lot of us kind of stuck to the beaten path, or we had very little reason to wander off of it because there were no quests or anything that we needed to collect, or it didn't have to do with any of the camps we were going to. So there's a lot of stuff that wasn't explored. And once this is released to the public and people get the chance to run around, you're going to understand what I mean right away. There's just a lot of stuff that we haven't, that I guarantee everybody hasn't seen. If you're one of the people who went around and discovered everything, you're in the extreme minority. Because, yeah, I know everybody that I've talked to has come across stuff that they didn't even know was in the game. It was just absolutely massive for a PS2 title. Even for, if you were to consider it on PC, it's still a massive game. And here we have the Nare camp. I think I'm saying that right. I spent a lot of time over here. A lot of time. Especially towards when I first started playing the game. This is a really odd spot. I think we used to stand right around this cactus. The tank would go in and pull through here. But there is actually a teleporter. I'm going to pull it up in a second here. It's really laggy when I do that. Let's see. Okay, so here you can see the column and the row we're able to select through. And there are all sorts of different places that we can go to. And we can actually change the region as well. Most of you have probably already seen this from Corsten when he does live streams. He's going to have way better quality. His computer's faster. You know, he's using a gamepad, and I'm using a keyboard. So it's a little awkward, but you can see all this stuff here where you can select through. Let's see, where do I want to go? I think we're going to go back to to Nare. Let's see. I want to go to Surefall Glade. Actually, I think we'll go to Nare first. Yeah. Okay, so here we are in Nare. This is actually the first city I started in. My very first character was a female necromancer, dark elf. So I started in here, and I started on Mars Fist. I only played on Mars Fist for about a week, and for some reason I was like obsessed with being on either the top or bottom server, and I chose to be on the bottom server. I think that's how it went. And then Hodstock or Hagley, one of those servers, I'm not sure which one it was, came in, and Mars Fist was no longer on the bottom. I don't know why I cared about that, but I did. So once that was no longer on the bottom, I left and went to Castle Lightwolf. So as you can see, there are no NPCs here, which is kind of a little depressing. But nevertheless, it is awesome to be able to run around. I remember when they first started putting the fog effects in, and you know, the cinders falling from the sky, and the music and everything. A lot of people forget that pre-fronts didn't have any of that shit, like birds that were flying around. I think that was added in Frontiers as well. A lot of different effects were added. So it was pretty bare bones at first. Bare bones as I'm looking at a skull flag. But I remember during the beta, or not the beta for Frontiers, I was helping one of the admins kind of find glitches and bugs and stuff, and there was a problem with the fog on the bridge down here, where it was just too thick, and when you would run through it, you would get disconnected. And in the beta, there was actually a lot more fog all over the place, but they just had to thin it out because it would cause FPS problems, and it actually caused people to crash. I ran over the bridge several times and crashed, so they could get the data to see what was going wrong or whatever. I'm not too familiar with all that stuff, but somebody was using me as a guinea pig to run over this bridge right here. Now this bridge, basically, you couldn't see across to the other side. There was that much fog, and they really thinned it out. And I remember when I first got in and I seen how much they thinned it out, it was kind of depressing because it looked really cool. I mean, when I mean you couldn't see the other side, you really couldn't. It was just thick with fog, and you'd run through here and you'd just lag like this, and sometimes you'd make it across, other times you would crash. But yeah, I had good memories with this city. I remember starting in here and not being able to find my way around at all. It was so difficult to get around. And let me see if I can find that tavern. I think this is the tavern where we used to kill rats. My wife and I, back when we were just friends, we had just met, and we used to come down here and kill rats. It's been such a long time. I think it's, yeah, right over here. There was a quest, I think, that started it, and that's how we initially found it. Now, we used to come down here and kill stuff and loot it, and even back then, this place was camped. It was hard to get in here, and it was actually my first taste of what it's like to have someone come down and steal your camp. We had that happen several times. What would happen is we would kill stuff, and we would go upstairs to sell it to the merchant behind the counter over here, and it would only take like maybe 30 seconds to a minute, and we would finish selling to her and run down there, and someone would be standing there, and we'd be like, "Hey, this is our camp, what are you doing?" "Oh, I didn't see you down here." And it would only take, like I said, 30 seconds to a minute. So what we would do is she would run down there, or she would run up here and sell, and I'd stay down there and hold it down, and even then people would come in and just steal it. So that was my first lesson in camp stealing. Because according to Sony, there are no camps. I remember people used to say that shit all the time. "You can't report me. It's not against the rules. I can come down here. There's no such thing as camps." Little peckerheads. But anyway, this used to be just absolutely full of dark elves. And what I didn't know about back then is you could have hundreds of people in an area, and the game could only process so many of them. So you'd only see so many people, maybe like 20 or 30 people, when there could be like 100 of them standing around. And yeah, it's just something that the PlayStation 2 couldn't handle. And I really liked it in here. I liked the quests and everything. All of the different houses were, you know, conspiring to kill each other off, and it was just really evil shit. I thought it was cool as hell. Another thing that I remember is this kid was doing an exploit over here, where he would stand in the tent, and he was able to stand up here or in the tent and attack an NPC, and they couldn't do anything to attack him back, and he'd get a ridiculous amount of XP because he was only like level 4 or 5, and the NPC was much higher than him. And about a week later, I remember reading the updates, and they were saying people that were doing that were gonna be banned if you were caught exploiting. But I didn't stay a necromancer for too long before I switched over to a druid. Most of this stuff I've already said on my other videos, but I'm just gonna go ahead and repeat it now that I have it for reference. I'm actually standing in the world. There was a druid that ran down here. He made his way all the way down. I think he was an elf druid, and somehow he must have used invis to get past the guards. And he ran up to me and started swearing at me, like, you damn dirty dark elf, and he was all role-playing and shit. And I was just like, wow, you look really cool. He's like, screw you, buddy. And I went ahead and I rolled a druid that very same day. I went back to my necromancer eventually, but I just wanted to play as a wolf, because I always like wolves and wildlife and stuff. So I rolled a druid, and I had no idea it was a healing class. But I'll get into that in a second. This over here, I remember this was like a little secret where people would, you'd be able to come across here, and it was kind of like a shortcut. I got a little bit of glare on my screen, watch me fall off. But yeah, this was kind of like something that somebody showed me like my first day. He's like, check this out, it's a shortcut. And then I showed like 10 people, and they showed 10 people, and it just, before you knew it, everybody knew about it. But I remember coming in here as an ogre. I think it was an ogre, maybe it was a troll. And you could actually get killed by a couple of the NPCs back here. I'm gonna run back to where the Shadow Knights, and I think the Necromancer started back here as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. But yeah, there was a lot more fog. I can't even stress how much more fog was in this place. As if it wasn't confusing enough to find your way around, right? I think this is where the cleric started. Yes, there's a cleric started in there. There's the cleric guild. But the first time I spawned in here, I remember getting the quest to find the coachman, and it told me to follow the sound of horses. And I was shouting, you know, I don't hear any horses. People were laughing at me and shit. Now this is I remember thinking this was the coolest thing in the world. It was like a secret society where nobody knew about it, but I mean, how obvious is that? That tells you right there, there's got to be something there, right? You can go right through the wall. I'm sure everybody already knows about that, but this was, I believe that's the Necromancer sign and the Shadow Knight. It's been a long time, because remember, I said that I quit back in like 2007, so unfortunately I wasn't there all the way through, which I really regret now. But yeah, it was just one of those things where, you know, my wife had actually moved in, so I was no longer playing to keep in the same world as her, so the incentive kind of went away. She continued to play, but I stopped. I got really tired of, you know, just the shit that Sony did. They were supposed to release an expansion, and everybody was hyped up for it, and they didn't do it. They increased the price of the game, the monthly fee, yada yada yada. You guys know how it went. But I think over here is where you would get killed if you weren't careful. There was an NPC that used to wander through here, and he did not like trolls or ogres, if memory serves. But yeah, I absolutely love this city. I spent a lot of time in here, and I just want to go outside and tell you guys another funny story. Like I said, I am using speed hacks, and I should be moving much faster. But consequently, I'm moving a little bit faster than normal speed. It's kind of like running around with sound until you hit laggy patches where you just slow right down. I think that's where the enchanters, yep, that's where the enchanter guild was. So the city was pretty big, but in the original EverQuest, it was much, much bigger. Mages over there, I think. But yeah, the original EverQuest, the city, it felt bigger. Maybe it's just because it was sectioned off. You actually had to load like 3 or 4 different times inside of Nare itself, all the different sections, which is one of the reasons why I couldn't really get into the original EverQuest. Everything felt so, I don't know, cut off and fake. You'd have to load, like right here, the game would stop, and then like 10 seconds later it would load back up and you could continue running. And it would do this several times inside of Nare, and if you got lost, you'd have to endure like 30 load screens. It just didn't feel as epic. This is definitely the best version of EverQuest. I know there's people that would argue with me who play the originals, but it's just much superior, much more superior. I mean, you can come and go out of every city. There's no loading. I mean, when you had to load different sections of the city, not just entering, but several times. Even in Freeport, they'd have like the East and West districts, and they'd all be separated by loading screens and shit. Same thing with Kinos. Just annoyed the hell out of me. But in the original EverQuest, Nare is just like a hole in the side of a mountain. It's just like a cave. And the same thing with EverQuest 2. And I remember thinking, what the hell? Dark Elves don't live in a hole in the frickin' cave. In the cave, they don't live in some hole. They got an awesome castle. It's an awesome evil castle. You know, Dark Elves would never be caught dead in a place like that. So that was really weird for me to see that too. They definitely got the best city here. All the cities were way superior. It's just superior. The sky and everything was just way better. But as a newbie, I remember running down here and fighting stuff, and I had killed a few things. There was a ton of people standing out here. It must have been like 30 people or more, just standing on the ramp and out here talking. And I started getting into fights, and I wasn't watching my mana, and I came across a magpie like right over there. It's funny, I remember exactly where it was. It was right over here, and I started to notice I was out of mana and I couldn't nuke. So I turned around to run and come up to this ramp, and I actually got killed right around here, and everybody just laughed at me. I think somebody gave me a res though, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, I remember killing fire bats, going to Cowland Ridge Cemetery. There was always groups to be had over here for starting out. And then of course you can see the lava over there. I remember the first time I ran up one of those mountains, it fell into the lava and died. Just a lot of newbie stuff like that. But yeah, Nare is a very awesome place. It holds a special place in my heart. Okay, so here we are in Cluck Inn, and this was the second city I actually visited. I did not go to Freeport directly out of Nare. I actually came here, and somebody took me here. And I remember thinking when the game started to die down, it must have been really tough for people to get around. I remember just before I left, they added a teleporter where you could get around. But back in the day, if you were brave enough, you would venture out on your own. Not without invisibility, though, or you wouldn't get very far. But yeah, people were cool, and they would take you from town to town. I'm sure most of you, the first coach runs you ever did, it was from people that you had met in your starting city that were more than happy to help you out. I remember the first time I ran up on this place. I thought it was just gorgeous. I loved it. I like the darker setting anyway. I always like that stuff, but the windmill is just real. Back then it looked really cool. Nowadays people are like, whatever, it's not a big deal. It just, everything felt so magical and amazing to me when the game was new. And now you look at graphics in games and they got all this, I don't know, it's just not the same. It looks better, but I guess you can only have that first time where you're really blown away only once. It's kind of like a special time. But yeah, this place, man, I always loved it here. Now, in the original EverQuest, just for comparison's sake, it doesn't look anything like this. It's called EQOA, and it does have a similar layout here, with all this stuff. I don't think they had the windmills. The windmills were just scattered around, and then there was like an airship somewhere over there. But it wasn't dark at all. It was actually bright and cheery, and the music was really, really upbeat, lighthearted. It's called Steamfont Mountains, I think was what the music was. But as soon as you would come to like right about here, it would stop and have to load. So yeah, I mean, I had some fun with the original EverQuest, and I plan on playing it a bit, but this is just so much better. If it would have went on PC, I think it would have done a lot better. But anyway, I remember joking about that bridge, saying that how come no one just fix that shit? Fix something else. But we used to get Sao and try to run over this in one shot, and usually it would result in falling. But that time I made it because of speed hacks. Now, even in here, I didn't explore everything. Like down that way, there's a bunch of like ooze and stuff. Well, maybe not in this one. I think I was just thinking of the original. But yeah, I was pretty sure there was a river down there. I don't want to go through all that. I'm getting lost because I never really went down there much. But yeah, in the original EverQuest, there's like this green river and a bunch of clockworks walking around and stuff. So yeah, this is always a really cool place to explore and get lost in. I believe this is where the mages started over here. And I remember making a few a few gnome characters. I had a gnome magician, Majesta. I got her all the way up to 60. I absolutely loved the magician class, and I also had gnome alchemist, clockcaster. I named him. But yeah, it's just a really cool place. Hopefully in EverQuest Next, they'll have all these cities. I mean, they're not going to look anything like this. It's going to be way different, but I'm hoping they'll have them in the same, relatively same kind of places. I don't know, it's just probably just wishful thinking, but yeah. Town layouts, they can't be beat. I think I'm going to go ahead and go over to Surefall Glade now. Okay, so here we are in Surefall Glade. Now, like I said, I re-rolled and started on a new server as a druid. And I'm actually on top of Surefall from right here. But another thing I wanted to mention, in the original EverQuest, you didn't have a vibrant sky like this. Everything felt like it was boxed in, especially the old towns like Surefall Glade and stuff. It felt like you were in a shoebox with the top cut out. It just felt really generic. And this, it just feels so wide open. Everything feels wide open. But yeah, I started here, and like I said, I didn't know that druids were a healing class. I mean, they're a hybrid. They were able to do different things, but primarily that's what was socially acceptable. They were to be healers. So I didn't know that, and I was nuking stuff when I got into my first group, and people were like, "Dude, you're supposed to be healing. Leave that shit up to the wizard." But yeah, I'd have to say probably the majority of my time just sitting around in Surefall talking to people. And it was just a really special place for me. I absolutely loved it. We actually kind of claimed this inn over here, me and my wife, who I must remind everybody we were just friends at the time. We kind of claimed this as our house. We were real flirty and stuff like that. It was nothing too serious at first. But yeah, anyway, we claimed this as our home. And I remember we used to log off here. I never really turned off my PlayStation. I must have went through like 3 PS2s because I never turned my shit off. I would just log out right here. And we both stand here and then go to work and come back, and my shit would be on all day long. I don't even know how many hours I've got logged into this game. And I only played for a like solid 3 years, maybe 4. But yeah, I was on all day, every day, even if I was just AFK standing around. But it was just good times. I remember there was actually a glitch over here where you would fall through the ground right over here by the Druid Stones. And I put in a ticket to support, and obviously they didn't do anything about it. They don't care. rare occurrence. Somewhere around here you would fall through the ground. But I remember evacing people here, and they'd get pissed at me because we'd be getting our asses handed to us. The tank would die, and then we'd all, we're gonna wipe. And instead of dealing with the debt, I would evac, and some people would be grateful, but a lot of people would be like, "What the fuck? We could have handled it." I'm like, "Yeah, no." And then I just started doing my own. I think there was a solo evac where you could just leave, and I just dropped the group because I didn't want the debt. That was such a pain in the ass. I used to love these little crystal balls. Such a simple effect, but I don't know. I used to like it. But anyway, if you guys like what you're seeing here, regardless of the quality, the frame rate issues, let me know and I will do more of them. Like I said, I am going to be gone for a month, maybe a little bit more, but I am going to be coming back. I said this in my SOCOM video, or my H-Hour video. I don't know if you guys, if my EverQuest crowd cares about H-Hour, but I did mention it before. I am going to be gone for a month, maybe a little more, but I will be back, so please don't unsubscribe. I will continue to bring you guys EQOA related content. I want to come in here right now and buy some drinks and some food. The staff left, they're like, screw it, nobody's here anymore. They all quit. But I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Like I said, if you want to see more, let me know. And I will be more than happy to, when I get back, run through different areas and stuff. Eventually I'll have a better PC, so things will run much smoother. And when I use speed hacks, I'll just fly through everything. Who knows, maybe by then the game might actually be, we might be complete. The people that are working on it, they're doing a really good job, and I'm very proud of those guys. I wish I knew how to do half the stuff they do, but anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I thank you guys for watching, and look forward to seeing you in my next video.